Hey guys, it's John from barbell1.com, and I'm calling this video basically like you will only know, like you're the only one that's going to know, and you're doing the best that you can. And I know I'm kind of oftentimes, I think, the only one who talks about these kind of things. Doesn't always make me the most popular, probably makes some people ridicule me, but you know, I'm not about being popular, I'm about trying to help people and prevent people from needlessly making the same mistakes that I've made. So today I'm going to be doing some voiceover to some Hatfield squat footage that I took back in September of 2012 when training was going really well. Now, a Hatfield squat, for those of you not familiar, is basically what you're seeing there, right? You have a safety squat bar, your hands are out in front of you, positioning them against the squat rack or something to support you. And essentially, you're not really pulling up with your hands. You're basically just using them to kind of brace and support you. That kind of creates very good balance and also shifts more of the emphasis actually to the quads. Now, for me, as you're going to hear, I'm going to explain why quad training has always been very difficult for me. I've always been more developed in the hamstrings, and so actually shifting that emphasis was very beneficial with this bar, and I made great improvements on my quads from making that shift. So to quickly bring you up to speed, I had hip surgery in April of 2014 here to repair my torn labrum and remove a large bone spur that was causing the problem. And what this video is about is to show you modifications that I've made to my training over many of my years in the gym to suit me, but yet by many people would be deemed maybe doing the wrong things, or maybe just basically like maybe you'd see me in the gym and think like, oh, he's doing it all wrong. But if you didn't know all the whole backstory, knowing the whole backstory, I think you would know kind of why I was doing what I was doing. So as I slowly kind of dug my own grave for my hip, honestly, I believe that a lot more of it was because I was listening to what others felt I should be doing, or hearing what so many other people were doing, feeling like I wanted to suit that norm, kind of the way to do things, rather than just simply listening to myself. So let's go ahead and run through some examples, and I hope that many of you that train hard and have dealt with injuries over the years can relate to a lot of things that I'm going to discuss here. And again, I feel like these are the kind of like mind effing things that go on in our heads, and we all experience them, and it's just kind of like not a popular thing to talk about. You just kind of man up and do what looks cool and do what everyone else is doing, and just don't talk about it. So here we go, we're going to talk about it. So the good old back squat, many say it's the king of all exercises, right? A must do for leg development. You can't have leg development, you can't have good legs without doing them. So as a teenager, I bought in hook, line, and sinker to that belief. I still think it's an awesome exercise, don't get me wrong. But I didn't know, what I was doing, and so quickly developed, awful tendonitis in my left knee. Again, that's not to blame on anyone else than myself. Clearly, I was whenever I started squatting, 15 years old, 14 years old, whatever, just didn't know what I was doing. Obviously, probably had awful mobility, was an awkward teenager, etc. But the point being, for what I knew, just that was causing problems. My left knee was literally like cherry red at rest. I have pictures of this. If I had easy access to those, I would flash those right now on the screen so you could see them. But just random red spots, red knee, just from all the inflammation. And I had x-rays, bone scans, MRIs, the whole deal. And my parents kind of thought I was crazy, like, dude, just chill out, stop hitting the weights, like you don't need to do this stuff. Sure, we'll take you for your MRI, but geez, man, calm down. And had all those things done, but no one had any solutions. Just dude, you got really bad tendonitis, you got to back off. So backed off, made adjustments, and it just kind of sucked to continue training my upper body hard and not really being able to train my legs hard. But eventually, there came patellar knee straps, the Chopat type things. Even months of rehab I'd done at my undergrad. A student athlete trainer had kind of put me through a whole rehab protocol, and all those things, they helped a little bit, but they didn't really solve the problem. So eventually it was suggested to me that I use a heel lift on my right leg, which seemed to be shorter than the left. Immediate problem solved. Like my tendonitis almost virtually disappeared overnight. It literally was like a miracle. I felt like I've seen God, Like it just unbelievable. And within no time, I was gaining strength and size on my quads, being able to train them again for the first time in years, like actually legitimately train them, not just kind of go through the motions with, very light weights just to kind of keep some level of maintenance training. So, I rode this wave for quite some time, always being careful to not take my leg training volume too high, knowing that doing so would always have me flirting with a tendonitis flare-up. And it sucked, because I knew I wanted to compete in bodybuilding. I knew my legs were lesser developed, particularly from all those years of having to kind of back off. So it's like you knew that, well, yeah, dude, ramp up the volume and frequency. But just kind of me inherently, I just kind of knew, I knew how far to push it and how far not to. I knew I could do a little more with my upper body, and that bugged me. But it's like if I would just chill, be patient, I valued my health more. Like I was like, you know what, I'm okay with having decently developed legs, being careful and just patient and taking the time. Eventually they'll kind of catch up, and if I force the issue, I'm probably just going to have, tendonitis flare up and stuff, so I better stay away. But anyways, let's look at these decisions. Later in my life, I had multiple physical therapists tell me that the heel lift was ridiculous, it was stupid, it wasn't needed, it was all soft tissue stuff, but yet no one seemed to have a better solution besides just saying like, yeah, work on your mobility more. And I'm sitting here like, okay, I'm foam rolling and stretching daily, like 7 days a week. Like what more am I supposed to do? And I was doing all the abduction, adduction, deep core, like plank type work, weighted planks and everything to better stabilize my knees, my hips, my core. Like theoretically, I thought, basically doing all the right things, doing as much as I could. I think in most people's eyes and people I would talk to and stuff, kind of like confirming like, yep, you're on the right path. You're doing a lot of the right things to keep your joints healthy and stuff. But it's like I still had this heel lift and it was working great. And it's like, was it wrong of me to keep using it? I didn't think so. Maybe it was a Band-Aid, but it's like I hadn't been able to train like this in years. So I was stoked. But again, the dreams of competing in bodybuilding eventually crept up on me. There's pressure to build my legs bigger. I'd have to, right, to be more competitive. And so, again, kind of looking at the years out, I'm like, I could take my time and maybe compete in my 30s and just let those legs gradually catch up. But it's like, or, I could force the issue by upping my volume and frequency. Again, still somewhat slowly and prudently over time, but to build better legs. So that's what went down, over a few years, no particular problems, but it again was much more common to have to be like, a little knee nagging here, a little hip nagging there, I better back off a little there. And again, things that I didn't have to do when I was being a little more prudent with my volume, but I don't think it was that rational of a decision to make, because again, it's like things were getting healthier. I wanted to build bigger legs, so that's what I did. But again, with some adjustments, I just always found that if I took my squats and things too deep, I get weird twinges and things in my knees, my hips, the tendonitis would come back, and it just kind of sucked because you'd hear all these people say, like, oh, it's actually worse on your knees to squat higher, and the deeper you squat, the better it is because you better cushion things with your hips and you engage your hamstrings and your glutes more and all these things. And I'm not saying necessarily that those things aren't true, but for me, it's just like it couldn't be further from the truth. The deeper I squatted, the more problems I had. The more I stuck with kind of like a half-ish, two-thirds-ish squat, like things were fine. So I just kind of worked on that. So, but after years of squatting high for years with kind of no, I guess, barrier or box to go down to, I decided, I'm going to set a bench or a box or some kind of thing behind me to sit down to. And, that way it would encourage me to make sure I at least hit that reasonable depth, which I'd say, as you can see here, I don't know, I'd call it maybe about a 2/3 or 3/4 depth squat. But also, like, it would prevent me from going into that discomfort area for my hips. So again, kind of sucked, kind of felt a little weird, like being that person where people are always like, well, yeah, but what would you squat without that bench? Like, what kind of weight could you handle? And you're like, I don't know. And like, it kind of sucks to like not be able to truly say like, yeah, that weight you just saw me do there, like I could do that without the thing there. Actually, I'll be honest with you, it's funny. With back squats, I definitely know I could not handle the same weight without the bench behind me. But interestingly, on these Hatfield squats, once my hip was really messed up and I just kind of said, whatever, screw it, like, I could basically hit the same weights whether I had the bench behind me or not. But anyways, just a little self-defense for my pride, right? Whatever. So it's like, years of awesome training continued. Like, I made huge increases in my thigh size and huge increases in strength, which is amazing, right? Because I thought, unless you squatted parallel or below, you could never build legs, right? Of course. I guess, someone forgot to tell Branch Warren, Ronnie Coleman, Doug Miller, and many other people that, I guess, not trying to call these guys out, but, think about it. Like, they're all amazingly developed legs, and quite often I see all of them squatting above parallel. So, again, you can't build legs unless you squat deep, right? Absolutely no way. Again, this isn't me trying to hate on deep squats. I'll come back to that later. But just kind of like pointing out the reality of things. Anyways, so eventually I came to realize that, my upper body mobility was making my back squat tough. So the shoulders and the elbows and wrists and stuff were getting all tweaked up. So as I'd already been doing, I just continued doing even more. Foam rolling, stretching, whatever, of all my upper body muscles. And again, I do more of this stuff than almost any bodybuilder I know. And it's like eventually kind of had to come to accept, like, you know what, maybe it's just not quite in the cards for me. Like, because still, despite all this work, my hip and shoulder mobility remain relatively dismal. So it's like, what are the options? Just endlessly beat on that and, squat mediocre weights and whatnot, or it's like, what are some modifications or adjustments I can make to make do with me? And again, on my shoulders, I tend to think like, some of that may still just be more work needs to be done. But, knowing there's some similarity between the upper and the lower body, perhaps my shoulders get some of what's going on with my lower body. And now understanding the bone structure of my lower body, like, it makes perfect sense. Like, there's bone, like, it just, the range of motion isn't there that most people have. I mean, even now, the surgical hip after the surgery, like, my internal rotation, my hip rotation is still, like, god-awful despite working on a ton. Like, it's just not there. Like, I just have to accept what it is. It can be improved, of course, but it's still never going to be, like, ideal for deep squatting and all these things. And again, it sucks. It bugs me too, but I'm just having to accept that. So, as I kind of started to realize all these upper body deficits, I said, like, maybe I could use one of those safety squat bars like you're seeing me using in the video here now. And, like, not only did that help with my lack of upper body mobility, actually I had a specific shoulder injury at that time, but it also allowed me to hit a slightly greater squat depth more comfortably with no hip problems at all that I could tell, and then additionally shifted more of the emphasis on my quads, which is a good thing, right? Because as I said, from all this years of babying my knee and stuff, I had more developed hams and less developed quads. So again, couple awesome years of squatting with this bar commenced from maybe like 2011 to 2013. And but dude, you're bouncing off that bench. That's cheating. And so, well, two things. It's like the other person's bouncing to take advantage of elastic recoil in the hole on a squat. Like, how's that any different? Like, everyone's doing that, of course. I don't see hardly anyone, like, everyone wants to reset their deadlifts, right? Because you don't want to get any bounce, but yet your squat, oh yeah, bounce the heck out of that. Like, and again, you can make a bunch of arguments for either way, but I'm just simply trying to point out that it's like there's really no rhyme or reason to it. I feel like sometimes it's just, this is accepted and this is not accepted, and it's like, why? Show me the reason why. Well, in this case, it's like, okay, well, if that's the case in that case, why is it not the case for that exercise? Well, just because. And again, just pointing those things out. So it's like, and then at the same point, like, people, like, oh, dude, like, this guy's really strong with his Hatfield squats here, but he could never squat that with like a real barbell. Like, don't go around like saying like, see, you got 650 or 670 on the bar. Like, you could never do that with a regular back squat. And you're like, did I ever say I could? You know what I mean? No. And so it's like, no, maybe actually what I'm saying is, yeah, I know I can't do that. That would be a great stimulus to build my legs, but I can't do that. So I'm trying to find an alternative that does allow me to go heavy. And so eventually maybe, yeah, I end up using way more weight than I could handle on a back squat, but isn't that a good thing, right? Like, aren't I supposed to be seeking progressive overload? Isn't that the name of the game? The funny thing is, all these things I'm saying to you, basically none of this was anyone saying any of these things to me. Like, no one ever said like, oh, dude, like, you could never squat that for real, you could never, whatever. But these are all the thoughts that I think we have in our head because, again, we look at what everyone else is doing and we try and like suit the norm and fit like what we're supposed to do. And, oh, bro, what do you squat? Hey, man, what do you just want to be able to like fit in. And at the same point, it's like I just continued on training the way I was, and most of the comments I would ever get was like, holy crap, dude, you're strong, or like, damn, you should compete, or, oh, are you a competitor? You know what I mean? Like, it was all positive comments. But again, I think we put these pressures on ourselves to suit the norm and try and be like everyone else. And so, I pressed on, making amazing size and strength gains. And, like, hey, you know what? Even if some of those grinder reps, my hands do assist me a little on the way up. Like, again, it's like, think about it. I'm a big believer in eccentric overload and eccentric training stimulus. So that's still allowing me, in some ways, you could almost argue, even if I purposely helped myself up on the way up, it would allow me to handle a heavier weight eccentrically, which is extremely important. And, probably does warrant giving yourself a slight boost for balance or a little bump off the box. So it's like, you know what? At the end of the day, it's like, who cares? It worked for me, worked for my hip condition. The results on my thighs, the results on my numbers, like, they don't lie. You know what I mean? It was working. So, but still, I persisted, right? I wanted to be able to have that back squat like everyone else. I'm not a real man unless I can do it. I need to get lower. Set the box a little bit lower. Do Smith squats lower. And again, I think in some ways these are good things. Like, say, like that box, right? If I just tried to eke that down, I don't know, half an inch every time and just quarter inch and just slowly eke it down. Like, I think the thought process is logical. It's not a bad thing. But again, it's like, why, dude? Like, you know what I mean? Just keep, it has to be, why? You're making great gains on your legs. They're developing well. You're gaining lots of strength. Like, what's the problem? But I just have to, you know what I mean? It's because everyone else is doing it, because that's the way it's supposed to be done. That's the good movement. That's the magical exercise. And it's like, the more I did those things, Did I notice really any difference in strength or size gains? No, but it looked cooler doing it, right? Yeah, you look real pretty on a surgical bed having hip surgery at 28 years old. So anyways, I'm going to basically stop there. The point is not to get angry. The point's not to blame others. The point is not to like sound bitter and miserable. The point is not to say the back squat is bad. It's an awesome exercise. And certainly the point is also not to say that squatting deep is bad. Just hear me loud and clear. The point is listen to your body. You're going to have to make adjustments over the years to keep you healthy and to suit you. No one's going to be able to do those things for you, so you have to listen and do them despite what everyone else is telling you or their theoretical voices in your head are telling you. Like, don't, think of all the peer pressure things you probably resisted over life relating to eating or this and that, whatever. Like, why be peer pressured into lifting or doing things that are uncomfortable for your body? Like, just listen to your body. So, it's like now right now, I'm learning so much more about how to keep my hips more limber with all the banded traction stuff you see me doing and all the upside down stuff. And it's like, do I think if I had started doing more of that stuff years ago, I could have gotten greater range of motion safely? Maybe not quite ended up where I'm at now. Quite possibly, but it's like, what good does that do? Like, I didn't know about those things at that time, and all those very highly trained professionals I saw, even some that work with pro athletes in the NFL, etc., like, they didn't have any of those things as suggestions to help me either. So it's like, was I supposed to just sit still and not train hard? Like, of course not. I did the best I could with the info I had available, made adjustments, not always the most popular or cool adjustments, but I just did what I had to do. I think we all have to do the same. It's like, move forward, make the adjustments, be content in your own progress, not trying to please others or do what you should be able to do or what, you know what I mean? It's like, we all have different bodies. I don't honestly believe that we all should be able to do the same movements with a heavy load. Do I think like everyone should be able to deep squat or get in certain positions, stuff? Like, of course. Like, I understand it's a human body. Those range of motions are kind of meant to be there. But for someone that's way more difficult to get into that position than someone that's easier, do I think that they both are equally suited or should be doing that movement with heavy load? Probably not. Like, we have to be smart. And so anyways, I can think of numerous other adjustments I've made over the years, eliminating most of the barbell pressing moves and just doing dumbbells since they seem to keep my joints healthier. Oh, but dude, like, you just need to do more mobility work. That's not right that you can't do those pain-free. And it's like, okay, well, spending an hour a week on upper body mobility work, what more do you want me to do? Like, I'll take my dumbbells and their gains all the way to the bank. Like, sorry, I'm doing the best I can with what I got going on here. So now that I know about these bands and stuff, can I see them helping my upper body? Will I use them? Of course. Maybe will I even try and throw some more barbell stuff back in as the mobility improves? Of course. Am I closed-minded to thinking that trying to make those moves work is something that, like, I shouldn't be doing? Like, no. But, like, why am I that upset in not being able to do them when I can make great progress on lots of alternative moves? You know what I mean? So I think you can follow. It's like, always be focused on progress, and sometimes you have to take a different route to that than someone else. And it's not going to look the same for everyone, and that's okay. If you're a bodybuilder, like, is your primary focus instead of, say, powerlifting, it's like, no one's going to know if your pec development came from a barbell bench or a dumbbell bench, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to step off my soapbox now, just summarize 3 take-home messages, and they are, number 1, like, only you will truly understand what your body is feeling, and once in a while, if you have to take an off day, if you have to switch to a different exercise, if you have to maybe even train harder or train not so, like, whatever it is, like, only you are going to truly understand what that feel is like, and the important thing is to get in tune with that and recognize those things and listen to it. Number 2, like, don't fear making unpopular adjustments. Like, if you have to make a different exercise selection, or I don't know, you're even training with some people and everyone's doing a certain movement and you're all like running through that and adjusting the weights on the bar, and something starts to twinge or feel uncomfortable, like, hey guys, I'm going to step over here and do a dumbbell bench instead or whatever. Like, just do what you got to do, make those adjustments. And then ultimately, it's like, you have to move forward. There's always going to be something that you could have done differently, knowing what you know now. But it's like, you make the best decision you can with the available info that you have, and you move forward. But yeah, keep an open mind. When that right additional info becomes available, you can adjust, and then again, move forward. So thanks for supporting me. Thanks for supporting barbell1.com, and I'll catch you in the next video.